I'd like to call the July 10th, 2018 Planning Board meeting to order. At this time, I would ask everyone to stand with us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I guess we'll use the little hat over there.
Closest thing we got.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any disqualifications tonight?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to bring to the board's attention that I have a previous relationship with one of the applicants, Mr. Jay Winslow, where I worked on an appraisal assignment against him for equitable distribution case. I don't believe that prior relationship will have a negative effect on my thinking or the process of the voting. I just wanted to let you know about it. I just spoke to Mr. Winslow just a moment ago to verify he was not in objection to me being on the board for this particular item, and he was not. Just wanted to let you know about that.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Anybody have a problem with that? I think you're fine. We have a quorum with 6 members, 7?
What do you say?
6.
Are there any changes to the agenda tonight?
No, sir.
Motion to approve the agenda.
I second the motion.
All right, the motion passes.
No, we got
We need to
to.
vote on it.
Yeah.
All the ayes.
Everybody say aye for pass that?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Any nays?
Any nays? Thanks.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. All right. Are there any changes to the minutes for the July 12th, 18 meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for June 12, 2018.
Any second?
I second the motion.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Minutes approved. Are there any old business?
No,
Okay.
sir.
No, sir.
All right, we'll move on to
New business.
agenda item number 2211, PB 18-17, Jay Winslow and Jason Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Winslow is here to represent the case. Mr. Winslow and Mr. Graham are requesting a text amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance to allow automobile painting and body shops in the general business zoning district, and that would be subject to the same conditions that your typical auto repair businesses located in. In the past, these types of uses were placed in the industrial zoning districts, primarily because of the noxious use of the fumes and overspray. Since then, the EPA strictly regulates these paint booths and enclosures, and they do yearly compliance inspections. Let's see, just for reference, the spray booth stations and enclosures must catch at least 98% of the fumes. Some of the requirements that I'll go over with you, basically this would just add this as a use along with automobile repair and body shop. They're not allowed to be located within 125 foot of any residential district, school, or child care. All vehicle repairs within a fully enclosed building There is some allowance for temporary outdoor storage, but that's also heavily screened and regulated. It's my understanding the gasoline's not going to be sold on site, so you don't need to look at that one. They can't keep cars there for longer than 30 days without there being some kind of legal arrangement ongoing that they're getting ready to move those. One thing staff is suggesting that we add to the text amendment is that staff gets a copy of that paint and body shop operations and EPA compliance report that they get yearly. Staff is recommending approval due to the consistency with the land use plan, and I spelled out those policies in your packets. It's consistent with the UDO, and it's reasonable in the public interest because it encourages business growth while protecting the aesthetic and environmental aspects of the county. And I will be happy to answer any questions.
All right, is there any questions for staff?
That EPA compliance report you're speaking of, is that something that's done in the normal course of business every year in your type of business? or-
The EPA does not come around and test our booth every year. Now, they can pop up and test it at any point, but it's not something whereas they come by and just do a test on. I think what they're getting at is that the with the newer paint booths, this is how, and actually our paint booth, the paint booth that we would be installing is consistently 99.3% clean air coming out. But as far as I know, the EPA does not come around per se on a yearly schedule and test that.
Is there something you have to send to them yearly showing that you tested it yourself?
Not that I'm aware of. I think that's their testing that they do on their own.
Can we go back to that requirement that was in there?
Absolutely.
Is there anything you get, I guess, with this equipment, when you get this equipment that says that it meets the EPA standards?
That's what I submitted in the packet.
Yeah, I saw that right here.
So, are there any more questions for staff?
Well, I just
I
think
mean-
we're probably not gonna be able to keep that
Right.
line in there.
Unless he's willing to provide something similar to that, which we can get into in a little bit.
Okay, I think I've misread it. It says, if there's a change in your operation, they have to do annual
Makes more
inspection.
sense, yeah.
So if you're not changing out your paint, then the initial compliance report is what they do.
It stands
I apologize. for
till
that.
you apply for a
I can take
change
that
or-
out if that's the desire of the board.
But that makes more sense.
Yeah, it
Yes.
does, you're right.
That
Sorry
sounds
about
reasonable to
that.
me.
I'd like further qualification on this use permit. The automobile sales and rentals requires one, but this wouldn't.
That's up to the board. Staff is recommending that it is, that it be treated just like an automobile repair shop. And that's certainly up to the pleasure of the board.
Could you explain the standards for requiring one, a use permit? If there's one required for sales, which.
The sales and repair, a use permit was added for those several years ago.
This just says sales and rentals.
Right. One was added several years ago because there was a proliferation of them and they were not being maintained properly. So the commissioners added that requirement so that way they could be reviewed more strictly. And they added some other requirements, like they had to have paved display areas and things like that. So that's why automobile sales and rentals has a use permit.
Would the same use permit apply to sales that's going to apply for this gentleman's?
This would be treated the way the applicant's requesting it is
Is that more like what you were trying to?
Well, it just seems reasonable on a case-by-case basis that they be reviewed, and a use permit requires a public hearing, right?
Yes.
Right.
The way the applicant has requested it and the staff supports is treating it just like you would treat an auto, like if you wanted to repair the engine. We would treat it just like you would want to repair the engine, which is allowed by right in the general business zoning district, so long as all those requirements are met.
But it wouldn't allow for sales and rentals.
Not without a
No,
special
if that's
use permit.
sales and rentals is a different use,
Right.
and that one does require the use
Okay.
permit.
All right.
Okay.
That makes sense.
So the, on the first page, or actually packet page 4, in addition to monitoring the emissions through yearly EPA inspections, the UDO requirements for the automotive repair, the sentence continues, the UDO requirements for automotive repair and servicing would apply to the automotive painting body shop to protect the neighboring property. So we need to strike that first part of that sentence?
Yes, I can correct them in motion, take that sentence out when I take that requirement out.
Yep.
Thank you.
And so then you'll just start saying, in addition, the UDO requirements for the automotive repair
Right.
and servicing.
Repair and
You'll leave
servicing.
that sentence in, that
Yes,
part of the
ma'am.
sentence in?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
That sounds good.
And I'll change that, if it's the desire of the board, I'll change that last sentence to say that we'll just get a copy of that initial compliance report.
Can I ask what your intent is? Are you going to have a lot perimeter?
Yes, sir. It'd be fenced in nicely, well, mains, not
Similar to
chain
what,
link,
you know
but-
where Atlantic is? You know,
Yes, sir.
Atlantic
Down-
fiberglass,
Mhm.
similar to that?
Yes, sir. Well, it would, I would say it would be nicer looking.
Yeah, well,
But,
okay.
but definitely, a nice professional building.
Irrelevant.
Well landscaped, nice high fence, we wouldn't be able to see her through, not chain link, but, it's nothing eyesore, so.
I hope you understand I'm not trying to be negative, I hope you understand my concern. There are great facilities and there are not.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
And allowing it as a permitted use in the entire general business district gives me just a moment of pause because I've seen the knots.
Yes, sir, I have too, I know
I
exactly
think
what you mean.
it's
There's plenty
something
of them.
that may be important to notice. A lot of the knots are what made the ordinance that applies today. There wasn't the heavy landscaping along the corridor, there was not architectural standards, fencing standards, and those kinds of things. The knots are what put this ordinance into place that he would then have to comply with.
I agree with that, true, but a use permit would allow input on a case-by-case basis, by concerned neighbors as well, as opposed to, oh, what's this building? It's a body shop. I've seen gorgeous body shops. I wish I could quote case by case, but I just go, holy cow, but I've seen the other end too, just like
Yes, sir.
repair garages.
Yep.
You want the original one, but do you want a copy if there's any changes made and a new one's issued?
Yeah, I wrote that too. Yeah.
All right, and on packet page number 7, that item 3, chapter 4 is amended by adding the following bold statement. That's where you're taking it out, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Taking that whole,
I'll
Item
delete
3
that
out.
entire item 3 and renumber accordingly.
okay, thank you.
Actually, I take that back. I'll leave the title, automotive repair and service, including paint/body work, and I'll take out F.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Ms. Glade,
Yes.
am I correct in saying that when an applicant applies for a building permit, if this text amendment passes, this use will be a use that is permissible in the GB zoning, and they would not have to notify neighbors within 200 feet?
That is correct.
Only when a use permit is occurring or a zoning change occurs
Correct.
is when that has to happen.
Right.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Is it in the GB or just in the LI?
Right now, it's allowed in LI and HI. The request is to also allow it in general business.
Okay, because right now, or the way I'm looking at this, it looks like you're scratching it off of LI and HI.
I'm
Z.
scratching that use entirely off and moving it up to automobile repair servicing, including paint and body shop.
Ah, I got you. Okay, so that's why the Z's down there are gone.
Yeah, we're taking that entire use and moving it up.
And it will be in the CC and the VC zone also? I don't know what those zones are.
Community center and village center. We don't have a lot of those.
And we don't.
But I mean, are we allowing the body shop in there?
If they have a master plan, then it
Oh, okay, that's where the PUD comes into it.
Right.
Our master plan.
One more question. What was the percentages again of how much the fumes were talked by the system?
Ours is 99.3.
99.3%. Pretty strong. All right.
Sir, if you could just stand and state your name for us. and-
Yes. Jay Winslow.
Okay, and your address?
My home address is 114 Deerfield Drive, South Mills.
All right, well, thank you, and whatever you have to present for us, we're ready to hear.
If you have anything else.
If you have anything else,
Just
then-
reiterating that,
Right.
you know, the whole reason for this is because there's very little light industrial in the county, especially on the north end where we would like, which is obviously the most growing area of Currituck. So with the need comes more people, more vehicles, more accidents. Like I said, really the only other one we have close by is Buddy Gregory's, and I know them, and they're way overbooked. So with the growth coming, it's definitely something that's needed. And so we chose to try to change the text amendment to be able to open up our options to be able to put it somewhere.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions, any more questions for him? I know we're a little informal tonight, but anyone? Okay, thank you, sorry.
Thank you.
I guess at this time, we'll open the
Is there any
public hearing
discussion?
for discussion.
I don't have any questions.
Any discussion?
I can't say that I disagree with the upcoming need, but I just feel very uneasy as a permitted use without a use permit. So I'll reiterate that. I think it's reasonable that they all be treated as they come.
Something else that you may want to consider as you were speaking that popped in my head, you can also, if the board wishes, look at allowing the use with a conditional zoning. And that would mean that they would have to rezone the property specifically for, I don't know that it's darn the difference. You have to rezoning, they both would require neighborhood notification.
The rezoning would be a greater expense and burden on the individual, wouldn't it?
Yes, sir.
As opposed to the use permit?
A conditional rezoning.
On a scale?
They're pretty equal
Are
on
they?
a scale. Now, a rezoning is a purely legislative matter, so it's not quite as intense on the applicant to present a case. A use permit is a quasi-judicial decision, and they have to present a case, just like you guys used to hear them and use permits. But there was findings of fact. It was an evidentiary hearing that was held. Applicants, witnesses are sworn in, and they give testimony, and that testimony is taken as fact. So it's a little bit more rigorous process, whereas a rezoning, a conditional rezoning, it's purely legislative. It means you can vote it yes and no, and not have to do the same intense findings of fact.
Thank you for the, it's coming back to me now. And in that light, I would change my suggestion that it be a CZ as opposed to a use permit, because it is not as involved, but there is oversight and a hearing and notification. And I just think it's a good idea in this case, my opinion,
Okay.
for what it's worth.
Any other discussion?
I have a question, Ms. Glade, to clarify about requirements that a person going through the building permit process would have versus a person who has, if it was in this, if this text amendment passed as written, versus whether there's a difference in the requirements for building permits and a conditional zoning process. Am I correct in saying that they both have equal landscaping requiremements and other requirements for the site, regardless of what way it is, whether it's text amendment or conditional zoning?
That is correct. The same landscaping and architectural standards would apply on the highway either way.
Thank you.
I would see the expense greater on the person for conditional zoning.
I would think so too.
Because if
Done with this.
you bought a piece of property that's already zoned general business, you could build and open your body shop with a building permit versus having to take the time and expense to go before a series of boards.
Right, we go through technical review committee, planning board, and board of commissioners for the conditional rezoning, same as the use permit. I'm sorry, you don't see use permits anymore. Take that back.
Yeah, that was.
Old school.
Yeah.
You're too dumb.
Anyone else? Anything?
No, sir.
All right, well, I'll close the discussion part and is there anyone here else to speak? Guess not. And, okay, close that and ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept PB 1817 Jay Winslow and Jason Graham text amendment, striking the sections that we've already discussed and modifying the verbiage in one of the sentences as we've already talked about, because it is consistent with the 2006 land use plan, because it's new, expanding industries and then businesses are encouraged. Small business startups are encouraged. Site building and design along major highway corridors require improved appearance, lighting, and tree preservation. Adequate public facilities must be available to support this request, and it does. The request is reasonable in the public interest because it's consistent with the purpose and intent of Section 1.3 of the UDO, and it encourages business growth while protecting the aesthetic and environmental aspects of the county.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nick?
Motion passes with 5 and 1.
Mhm. Announcements.
All right, are there any other announcements?
Those are not from staff that I'm aware of.
Anyone?
Nope.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.